Welcome to the Wired for Success podcast, your show for ambitious, mission-driven entrepreneurs who want to build million-dollar businesses without sacrificing their health, relationships, or happiness, who understand that in order to build their empire, they need a solid foundation, and that the more they are thriving, the more their business is thriving too. This show brings you the very best from science, self-development, and entrepreneurship to set you up for sustainable success. Hi, I'm Claudia Gabert, the scientist turned mindset and high performance coach for entrepreneurs, and I help you get wired for success. Hey everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Wired for Success podcast, where we talk about all things science, self-development, and entrepreneurship that help you get to that next level of success in your life and business. Today's guest is Angela Thomas, Europe's #1 scaling expert and the founder of Angel Success Consulting. Over nearly 30 years as a serial entrepreneur, and Angela has worked across industries from beauty to jewelry to aviation and digital services, helping ambitious founders grow their businesses without burning out. She now runs an exclusive consulting and mentoring firm, blending strategy, financial mastery, and even spirituality to help entrepreneurs unlock exponential growth. So if you've ever wondered how to scale to $1 million business without sacrificing your health, relationships, or happiness, this conversation is for you. Welcome, Angela, and thank you so much for being on my show today.
Wow, Claudia, that was a very nice introduction. Thank you so much, and thank you for having me on your podcast here.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's my pleasure. Now, Angela, you have built businesses in multiple industries, and you now mentor entrepreneurs all over Europe and the Middle East and even North Africa. So what was the first moment you realized you had a gift for scaling businesses, not just running them? And how did that moment change the way that you yourself approached entrepreneurship?
That's very interesting. When I had my own business, one of my businesses in Germany, where my roots are, actually build it up, I always trained my own stuff. And that's what I wanted to scale with. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I was actually situated on a very countryside, like 1,000 people in this village where I built up my big business. And later on, a lot of people was always calling me, Angela, do you have actually other employees as well? I was like, what are you talking about? And I didn't make much out of it, but I realized then that my employees that I trained like 3 years with this internship that you have installed in Germany, that they have been always going to the cities. And those new employees of them, they was always very grateful of me training my staff so good. So in the end, I was just deciding, okay, making actually a training for my staff so good that other wants to have them, then I just train the people that they have already as well, and I do this for money. And with that actually, with that actually move of in my business, I opened up a whole gate of the business side of other businesses. So I saw, or I was looking into what was their needs, and with training the people in their businesses, I came to know what are their weak points, and that's when I just shared it. And a lot of people had then booked my training courses. I meanwhile fast forward a bit, I built it even up a beauty school next to my running salon and clinic. Then a lot of people came to my training courses not because of the actually tool only or the actually skills only, but because of I was also telling them how to market, how to scale it, how to utilize the new skills that they have trained with me in the beauty industry, how to actually make money out of it. And that's when, the first steps were born to actually help people into scaling their business, into growing their businesses. And out of that, I formatted a mentorship, and over 60 people I had actually in my mentoring for the beauty industry itself.
Oh, wow. That's such a great story. And I love how it built you build it up from one step to the next, and there were always these slight pivots, and you saw the opportunity and you grabbed the opportunity. Can you talk about the process of discovering the opportunities and making those pivots?
Yes. So at first step, I was then thinking of, okay, I wanted to scale my own business. So I had actually started in my basement to build a little business. Then in the meanwhile, I thought like, okay, there's not that much things. I'm only exchanging money for time, and I need to get actually more opportunities. A lot of people in this industry, they say, oh, we booked out. We booked out until next year. Just be crazy, okay? But they have crazy numbers. I'm with my business. I'm so booked out. I cannot take you on. And I always thought like this is so stupid, because when you book out, you should entrepreneur wise, and with the good mind of growing, you should just find opportunities. So that's what I did. Whenever I was booked out, I found opportunities, and I built resources. And I did that in the years of my first entrepreneurship with stuff, of course. Yeah. Exchanging time versus money with others. And back in the days, 25 years ago, you just scaled, not with processes, maybe a little bit, but you were scaling over workforce. And that's what I started with. And looking at that, I actually booked then a big old school in Germany with 400 square meters, where I had everybody was telling me, you are insane, actually, doing that on the countryside with only 1,000 inhabitants in your village. How can you book this? And I was standing in front of that building, and it had like kind of these two wings, and I was dreaming or visualizing that I have in this one beauty lounge and in this other beauty school. So I was having already this vision, and I gradually followed this. So I moved in this big building, in this big studio that I built it up later on with having actually 13 working stations, and only 2 staff. Me 3. So it was quite empty. There was a lot of space to grow, but soon I built it up with my own team, and we was in the end 15 people. And I then thought like, okay, if I'm training, then I can scale. And I was looking for then partners with which I can train, or for who I could train. So big market player that I did the trainings for until I came actually to visibility in the market, gained me a name and recognition in the industry. And then I start writing a book and all of these things that brought me kind of laughter sometimes from the industry, but also in the end, I was actually awarded for my life achievement in this industry, especially.
Yeah, you sound very determined and very passionate and very ambitious. Now, looking back, what was maybe one painful mistake that you made early on in your career that then shaped how you mentor entrepreneurs today?
That shaped how I mentor entrepreneurs today. I actually was always very, very attached to my team emotionally. In the beginning. So in the beginning, I always was making decisions on the emotions for the employee. And that is something that I changed really quick. I remember I was then on a training for myself, how to deal with females amongst females. Because that is a big, unique connection if you are a leader in a very female-driven industry. And you want to function a little bit de-stressed and de-escalating. You wanted to have the skill in a setup like that. And I remember that this trainer said to me, do never fall for the power of tears when you lead a team full of females. And that sticks to me until today. I'm a very emotionally driven person in leadership. I'm triggering the emotions of my team still today, but I also can make a barrier of where to detach and where's they coming too far with emotions towards me or also towards them. So this is something that is really important for entrepreneur to know where to set boundaries when it comes to emotional turbulences in an environment of employment.
So true, but also quite difficult.
Yeah, it is.
Your focus is on scaling, but you also emphasize sustainability and mindset, which I think is super important. Because after all, if it's not real success if you have to kill yourself for it, right? So our listeners want $1 million businesses, but not at the cost of their health or relationships. So how do you personally set those boundaries to protect your time and also your energy while running a high demand business?
Yeah, that is a very good question, Claudia. And this I see day in, day out with my clients that they are just really almost, if I can say this, kill themselves for the sake of achieving the KPIs.
Right.
And I am a very big numbers driven person, but also it needs to be healthy. What is there to achieve if you cannot enjoy the achievement? So for me, it's always what I practice myself to, first of all, love what you do. We have this viral thing, job you love. That's
Mhm.
something that is actually totally in my genes. And what you love, that's what you need to do. And with that, there is a big insurance basically for prevention of burning out or burning your empty. And that's what I practice. So what I do, I really love. And that is one part. But yeah, we all know everywhere and everyone that in the 3D life sometimes things happen and you need to solve all kind of things that are rolling towards you, all these tasks that you have to tackle. And therefore I first create always a list with the most important things. I'm going very much after the principle of Eisenhower. So Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, and I sort my task with which I actually get a very clear mind of where I have to say yes to do something quickly and also where I have to say no to do it later or not do it at all. And that gives me a lot of clear mind, a clear vision of my achievements. So, and then I always practice. That is a lot of training, but I practice the principle of a yes or a no to the outside is a yes to me. So
Mm.
always stay in that power and in that energy. It didn't happen to me to manage that from the very beginning. That is the biggest training, especially if you are in a service industry, then you always wanted to deliver for others to make them feel good. And to say no to the outside, but yes to you, to just say that to you, it helped me so much to stay focused on what are my goals. And then, of course, I'm bringing every day my trash out mind-wise in form of meditation. So it's like bringing out the trash, cleaning up the house. That's
Mhm.
what I do to have a regular mental hygiene, training your parasympathicus, also to
Yes.
don't believe everything what you think, but
Mhm.
stay in the middle of, even if it's stressful. That is a bit training. You need to practice that. It's not falling from the trees. It is like kind of this stress management that you have to do sometimes and learn it. And that is something for me to stay healthy. And always what I see with entrepreneurs that are very focus on the KPIs, that they overdrive signs of stress. And I
Mm.
really be very cautious of that. Yeah, if you have a feeling of being tired, you simply need to sleep. Yeah, there is no way of drinking the fifth coffee, a double espresso, there's no point of even getting what are these little caffeine pills? Everybody is talking to themselves. Oh, they're not harmful. Yeah, they are not harmful as such, but they are harmful for your body because you're overriding signs of stress. And that is something that I don't do, overwriting signs of stress. I'm recognizing them and I'm saying thank you also to myself to show this, so that I have this connection to my body to listen to it. Something very important. Somebody has to learn it. Your gut feeling. A lot of people, they have this misconception, listen to this head, which has no way of making a decision, but in your stomach, this little tiny little voice that speaks to you, but is so often overwritten by your mind. And then, you should not do this. You should learn how to listen to your gut feeling, and that is something that I think it's a very good recipe of staying healthy, mental healthy, also for your business.
Yeah, so important. And thank you so much for sharing. Now, maybe you can also share, say, 1 or 2 practices that have kept you grounded and resilient through all those economic crises of the last years, and maybe some business challenges that you encountered along the way.
Yeah, I have a very big business challenge that I can maybe share, and then I share how I dealt with it. That is the answer for your first question. So, when I especially moved from Europe to Dubai, to the Middle East here now, then in Europe or in Germany, there was not a lot of people who was happy with me doing this move, because of course I closed down a business with 15 people in it. So 15 people was having their own mind and own opinion of what I did. I tried for some of the time to actually get this in a remote leaded situation, but especially in the beauty industry, literally this is full with mistakes or full with potential ups and downs. And that's when I decided to close it down and to actually not continue this. And a lot of people was looking at me with the vain eye. So what I kept is actually my mentoring with 60 some people in it that are educated, because I could easily do this online. But especially those beauticians, those therapists that I trained, those business owners that I trained, they was really also jealous or in vain, didn't really fancy that basically I'm training from Dubai, a nice place, into an economy or an economically system where they had to struggle. Post Corona, it was especially for this industry very interruptive. So what I gained with that sort of energy was basically a lot of payment failouts. So I was actually running behind my money, and running behind my money was not a very good energy. But, like I was still in this fighting modus after Corona or in Corona to just be there for my business, had made me or set me up in a energy where I just also battled then for myself. How can they not pay their bills? And why they do this? I'm jumping for all of them, behind them in the water, and save them and mean it only good. How can they dare to not pay the bill? And I was really hurt, emotionally hurt. And I let this very much into my system. And that was the first mistake that I did. So my solution to that was, okay, I am not taking any German client anymore. I'm concentrating full on the Middle East market. I give it all to prove everybody in Germany, in Europe, that Middle East is functioning for me and I can do business everywhere. So my ego came through. Yeah, you know that this had a lot of power at this point, and I did so. I had really good business here in the beginning. I did everything. Networking is actually my second first name. And I had a very quick, I had very quick attraction of business owners with my program. I really adjusted quite quick to this market here. It is totally different than the European market. So in what I did, I had actually a lot of people who said, oh, we wanted to have your help, we wanted to book you. But what is the mistake that I did here? With the energy of missing out the bills of Germany, I want this business here in Dubai working so much. So I already started working with only having actually a handshake contract. I started working with already only sending out the invoice, but not waiting until the money has been received. So before I was turning around, I did the same mistake again, just because I want it to work and show off everybody. So what was the end of the energy level that I was in? I had good business, but the money was not rolling in. And certainly I felt short in the potential of growth. And I could not do what I wanted to do for my business growth here in the market. So actually, I was looking for out of contraction, actually, energy of contraction of what was missing. So I was looking for somebody a lawyer who could actually go after the money for me. I was looking for, going to these people personally. Why don't you pay your bill? Da, 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 da. I was only thinking, if this person pays, I could do that. I was always in the position of lacking something, missing something. And before I even understood, I was lowering down my energy so much that I had to basically even relocate. I was living on the Palm. It was nice and very posh, I was healing from all what happened in Germany. Oh, I love this box on the beach, but still the new rent came up, and in Dubai you have to just pay it a year in advance. There was no transition time. So I didn't have the funds. And then I had to go into a little apartment in the marina, which is loud, full with tourists, And I was moving and I was really miserable. I was like, only because of them, I need to move in this small apartment, having not my kids anymore with me. They wanted to back out of Dubai. They wanted to go back to Germany. So everything was actually breaking down. And I was like, I want this to work. I'm not giving up. I want this to work. And so I patted everything off. And then I thought, it's not gonna be able to get worse. It went worse because at the first time of 30 years entrepreneurship, I was doubting myself of even being a good entrepreneur. And that's when I started writing CVs. In, I think, 2 weeks, I wrote 186 CVs for being employed. And all of these CVs didn't have a reply. Only 3 came back. 1 was a denial. 2 was a denial, and 1 was a yes. And that yes to that job was a job scam. I didn't find out right away, but I lost the last little money that I even had.
Oh, no.
So, with that, I really was thinking, okay, the scammer is stupid, but who is more responsible? I took all of the responsibility that there was out there to reflect actually what has gotten wrong. And I found out myself that I only attracted, I don't know if you know this scale of consciousness, maybe the audience knows, but if you operate out of fear, out of anger, out of all of these low vibrating energies, you only attract that, because high vibrating energy, good paying people, they are not operating on this kind of level of frequency. And that's actually when I swapped everything around. And a lot of people ask me, how did you turn around your business like that? Because now we are in September and I've already made, from that only happens last year. So I already made, not to brag, but just to give you an idea, 2 million dirhams here, which is 250,000 euros. It is just for you to get a reflection on how you can switch it around. And a lot of people here in the market asking me, how did you actually turn it around? And I said, I know what I did, but it's hard to explain. I only can show you. And whenever I meet somebody who is also in that sort of frequency, only sees what is not working, only sees what it's not achieved yet, then I reflect. What are you grateful for? Because that is actually the button where you can switch your totally frequency for fully around. And to go into this level of being grateful, that is something that is really something good that you have actually to as a tool to turn around your energy. And that's what I did. And that's when I attracted those clients who paid me in advance, who gave me good business, who was appreciating my services, and also give me recommendations. So this is just such a big shift and such a big learning that I wish everybody knows that. And that's why I created even a keynote that I'm regularly be invited. And that's also the point of where I bring actually the business and strategy and the spirituality into one. Because I have something that calls the 7 reasons of stagnation. This is where I give actually strategic kind of advice, how you scale your business. But then there is this one element, the 8th element, I call it. This is the frequency. And that's nobody is talking about in business, I suppose, or not a lot of people. But this had made such an impact in my business. And that is something that I really give everybody who's in my mentoring or in my clientele, and also podcasts like this as a advice, as a knowledge, or how I deal with it, because I know it's so powerful.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a skill that we all have to train, to stay more in this attitude of gratitude, so that we set our internal filters appropriately and we see the good stuff when it's actually happening. And we are not just seeing the danger and the risks everywhere. But sometimes that's really hard, especially when you're under a lot of stress. So that's why I think the nervous system regulation and stuff like that, the training yourself to stay calm, is so important. Now, as we've already mentioned, scaling is often seen as this purely logical, analytical process. You have your systems, you have your KPIs, you have your processes. But sometimes the really big breakthroughs, they come from just following your intuition rather than logic. Can you maybe share an example where intuition beat the spreadsheet?
Yes. That is a very good, a very good example. I have one client here. It's a very well-renowned doctor in Dubai, and my intuition was always to work with this doctor. And I had him as a client here in Dubai. One of the ones who paid me in advance. Didn't question my prices, and and I have actually told him that he has a big business case that he doesn't know yet about, because out of crawling into his audience, I saw what he didn't see. And now it is a very big so-called product that we have. We're helping German doctors to relocate, or European doctors to relocate from Germany to Dubai. And he didn't see that. And with that, we scaled so much. And that was actually following poorly my intuition, because I just saw people in social media asking him. I was dealing with his social media, asking him so much. And I was following my intuition with that. And he at first didn't want to listen. And he had so many, success already with, he has 3 clinics here in Dubai, over 60 employees. And I was like, Max, you're just not scaling. He was literally doing the things that I was doing 20 years ago with my salon. He's just exchanging time versus money, and then he does it with the employees. Now in Dubai, the employees is not such a big position like in Europe, but I was still seeing the missing potential that he is just letting go, and I was not willing to let this go. So I said, Max, we need to stick on that. Let me try. Let me create it. And he was really interested, and I didn't disappoint him, I suppose. Yeah. Today we have a very big program together, and working on that program as a partnership. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, if you had to design, say, a minimum viable scaling plan for a service-based entrepreneur who wants to hit those millions in revenue, what would be your 3 non-negotiables?
Well, first you need to make sure that service is really a service. So a lot of people, they're mistaking when they are in a service orientated industry. Doesn't matter if it's a beauty industry or even restaurants. What is the reason why you are there? Why are you doing this business? And this is one thing that a lot of people are forgetting, is because of the client. And sometimes they treat the client or the guest so shady that I cannot just sometimes imagine. So make sure that your service is top notch, that you really give a lot of passion into that very service, and be aware of that you are there because of your guest and because of your client. Not other reason, not for the KPIs, not for nothing, but for the guest. That's what you're doing this business for. And if that is the case, then you have already won the half battle. And then, of course, you need to always reflect yourself when you are actually going, because you love the business maybe so much, because you are developing it, when you are sneaking into the operations. That happens so many times with founders, with entrepreneurs who are very dedicated with their business, that they are swapping into the operations where they should build actually on the business, where they should work on the business, not in the business, as everybody says. Also, yeah, they have to really reflect that. A lot of people, they're falling into that without really realizing it, and then months later they're just turning around what I have done actually, and why we are not coming forward, why we are stagnating. And that is one of the unnegotiable points of where every entrepreneur should reflect themselves. And sometimes you cannot reflect yourself. You cannot see your own shadows yourself. You need somebody who is holding up the mirror and helps you with reflecting the path that you are just going. So always something like a mentor on your side. It's advisable in any stage. I always have a mentor. It doesn't have to be a mentor all the time that is next to me, that I'm speaking every week to, but sometimes I'm just having a beautiful collection of people that I like to listen, like to educate, like to learn from. And nowadays, with all of these programs and opportunities, you do not have to have that personal session anymore. In any case, you should have a network, you should have a group of person that you orientate on, but learning to have a mentor helps you also to have self-reflection, and that is something very, very good. And then, of course, not getting actually involved into a situation where you think you're receiving money, not having it, but already spending it. A lot of entrepreneurs are falling in that. It's like, okay, I got that deal, handshake deal. Yeah, I've been there. You cannot make that scrambled egg by only thinking that your chicken will maybe lay an egg. You have to wait until it's definitely there, and then you can work with it. And that's something that I see often in entrepreneurs, that then they are finding themselves in financial tumult or in an upside down situation where they actually didn't want it to be. Every time there can be something wrong, you don't have to count with it, but also only count with the eggs in your basket only, not the imagined eggs that you maybe have.
Yeah, that's a good advice for sure. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they can just get ahead of themselves because they're so excited and just want to get going. Now, if an entrepreneur is considering an international expansion like you have, what's the single biggest mindset shift they need to make before they take that leap?
Always be flexible. And think of the dinosaurs. They never had actually made it because it was so flexible. They actually didn't make it because it was not flexible. So they didn't adjust to them to the new circumstances. And that's why what I actually advise whenever you change a country, an industry, also be flexible. Uh, don't make a 3-year plan of doing something and then strictly follow it. Always have etaps where you actually reflect, see what is working, what is not working, and then adjust quickly. And don't be stubborn on the plan that you have made maybe 2 years ago and you want to follow this. You have to be flexible with the market and feel also what is happening. For example, I have a sales training in Germany, or I had a sales training that was 2 days in a row. But now landscaping of training is totally different in Europe than it is in Middle East. In Europe, you can send your stuff away for 2 days, and they just close down the business or maybe having a low performance. But this will not happen ever here in Middle East. So what I did with this sales training, I just created it for the market here. I made actually these 8 hours or 16 hours that I have in these 2 days, diverted with 14 days. So I had created 14 subjects and only teach the trainees 1 hour each day with one subject. So each day, an entrepreneur can actually make it happen that his stuff is there for learning something. Now, our technology allows us to do this also online, and very effective online, with all kind of tools where you can showcase, train something, breakout sessions, and so on. So you have a lot of opportunities, and that's something that I adjusted. I know this market needs sales trainings. They have a lot of people that doesn't know how to sell, with which you then scale. But also, they would never had actually disrepute their people towards a training conference room where they sit 2 days in a row. I mean, of course, also I'm not that big of a name that is filling stadiums and stuff like that. So I had to reflect, adjust, and create something. And with that, I'm very successful here. A lot of people are booking this training course, which happens every month. And so I have each day 1 hour with the task that they train then, and we are combining it then in the end together. So, and by the end of the class in 14 days, you have it all, and even also a very much long-term training in combined in it as a side effect. Yeah.
That sounds really helpful. Now, what are some cultural mistakes that Western entrepreneurs often make when they are entering the Middle Eastern or Northern African markets, and how can they avoid those mistakes?
Yeah, so to be respectful is one of the most important thing, not only in Middle East or in Africa, but everywhere. There are some cultures that you have to respect. And I see a lot of people that are just ruthless with their way. Yeah, I do not have to walk around in this country in my yoga outfit, So this is something that a lot of people do. And transporting this to the level of making business is also something that you should avoid. For example, to not educate yourself. How is the country ticking, basically? What are the customs in this country? And if you give it a little bit of a room, you don't have to have the full language of it, but if you say only shukran or thank you in the language of your opposite, it makes such a big pattern breaker, and you actually help yourself of breaking the ice. And with that, it's already half battle won, and you have the credit of this. In Middle East, you have to understand that here is a lot of things are working with relation and with personal recommendation. which we don't have in Europe so much. We going more for what is on the CV, we going more for the KPIs. But yeah, here in Middle East, this is also very important. But if you have a personal connection or a personal recommendation, this is so much powerful. Well, where we have in Europe sometimes this framed as, working sometimes with a bit bakshish around. This is not the case. This is just the culture. Some entrepreneur is relying on the word of somebody renowned much that helps you to come in a market, to get you actually the credit of this is a trustworthy person. Because also you have to understand that especially in the Middle East is this very fast, and a lot of people coming in because it's a transition country. So the guard of making business of your opposite, especially of the local people, is very high. So to find actually your way as a foreigner to enter this market with business, you need to find a way of bringing down the guard of your opposite. And you do this with being open, trying to say something in the language, and of course have a recommendation. So especially here in the Middle East, you have to understand, to send out your entrepreneur caravan, you need to have a lot of more water than anywhere else. And therefore you need to have a very big network.
It's all about connection and those relationships, as you said.
Exactly, yeah.
With your bird's eye view of so many industries that you've been in, you see where business is heading. So where do you see the biggest opportunities for small and mid-sized entrepreneurs over the next 5 years?
Okay. I think service orientation is something that we can really good scale if you really know how to do service. So this is something that I see that here also in the Middle East, because it's growing so much, the service is underestimated, because a lot of people, they only count on the tourists that are coming in, but they do not have actually the understanding of keeping the clients that they have, because anyway, not a lot of new people are coming in. So if you understand how to actually compose clients that you have, keeping them, and accumulate the new clients that you will gain, this is something that you can really have a good potential in of an exponential growth. Combining this with, of course, AI, optimized processes that help you to save money and time with it, especially, brings you into a very optimized situation. Yeah.
Awesome. So we're looking forward to seeing that growth. So last but not least, where can our listeners find you online if they would like to learn more about you or connect with you?
Yes, we have. I have an Instagram, Angel Success _consulting. But you also can find my podcast will be launched by the time this is on air. Maybe you find me also on Skillionaire. This is the podcast and the magazine I will be actually releasing on the 5th of October. You can find me under that, skillionaires.me. And that's where you can find me on LinkedIn, Angela Thomas, everywhere. I think you're going to educate your audience with all the links and things, how to get in connection with me, don't you?
Absolutely. We will put it in the show notes. So Angela, thank you again for talking today and for sharing all those tips and insights with us today. It's been really great talking with you.
Claudia, very much thank you. And thank you to the audience that have listened here. And I hope I brought some value towards your podcast, your show. And people will like it, hopefully.
Hope so too. Now keep up the great work. Take care and talk to you soon. Bye.
Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the Wired for Success podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, please take a sec to rate and review my show or share it with a friend. That way you can support the show and help me reach and support other entrepreneurs like yourself as well. If you would like my help to figure out how you can go from overwhelmed and overworked hustler to empowered and confident leader, check out my website at www.wiredforsuccess.solutions and book a free 20-minute strategy session with me. Can't wait to help you get wired for success. Until next time, take care. Bye.